Hello, beautiful people. Hey, look, before I start this session, I have a big announcement to make. And, the documentary that's been in the works for a long time about my son Eric's life, it's almost finished. But in order to get to that finish line, the director producer Paula Marino needs some help. So she needs funds to cover all the professional fees that will be involved to bring the story to the screen, like a professional story editor, a music composer, a sound mixer, an illustrator, animator, etc., etc. Now, Paula created a crowdfunding page where you can donate whatever you feel comfortable donating. You can also donate by purchasing a 30-minute session with one of our mediums, or by purchasing an item from the Erik merchandise store, like the one I'm wearing. Saving the world one prank at a time. It's an embroidered image, so it's really nice. So anyway, go visit channelingericdoc.com and take a look at it. This project is very near and dear to my heart. And one of my greatest wishes is to get the story out to more people so we can help more people. And I want you to go and see the trailer that's on the channelingericdoc.com. It's so moving. It's so powerful. It was my first reaction. It was a gut punch. But it says it all. So look at the trailer and let me know what you think. Thank you, guys. We're back with Ginger Bailey. Check her out in the description box below and on the screen. And we have, of course, Erik, who is explaining everything that has to do with his narcissistic grandparents, big mama and puppy. So, and also narcissistic kids, a bunch of stuff. So if you haven't watched part one, please do so because it was really illuminating. Thanks to you, Erik, and thanks to Ginger. All right, let's go with the first one. I'm going to say something about this first. What is the cure for narcissistic behavior once the child is trained to be narcissist and entitled and all that? Now, I think one thing that I've taught my kids is that, narcissists really have a problem being wrong or making mistakes and admitting it. I told my kids that mistakes are wonderful, that they are stepping stones to success, and they should be treasured. And it's a teachable moment in each of them. So they shouldn't feel bad about it. They should regale them and honor those mistakes. And never
So, so the qu- so what the question is how to
cure the narcissistic behavior if a child has been trained to be one, to be so.
So if they're still a child, okay, once they're an adult, it's on them. But if they're still a child, it's still on them, but you still have a little bit more like molding you can do when they're younger, right? He's saying that one of the best things to do is unconditional love in a way of no judgment. Take away that judgment. Try not to control who you want them to be and mold them, and give praise to the positive behaviors.
Right.
And if you don't know what those things are, there's all kinds of information out there on the Google machine or books or whatever. But he's saying that to do this, you have to turn it around, and really also assess if this is something that can be done. Like, is this something that's part of them? Because you can actually do harm if you diagnosed your child with narcissism and they don't really have it. Like, maybe that's your perspective.
Oh, yeah.
He says, be very
right.
careful with that, he says.
I think one of
So,
the best books to help is one I wrote called Hearing is Believing, How Words Can Make or Break Our Kids. And if you guys want, I can send a PDF copy to anybody who emails me at emedwho's@gmail.com. But yeah, it's like, for example, when you say stop running or stop being, first of all, you don't want to don't stop. There's always a way.
yeah.
You can always
Say walk.
Yeah, but don't thank them for, making the right choice. They should make the right choice anyway. Also,
Right.
Logical consequences delivered with respect and love, but logical consequences. They need to, make sure that they are accountable for them.
Oh, yeah, he just said too that it's important. That's a good point. He was just saying too, Elisa, to that kids need to be okay with failing. That's a big one. Be okay with failing. It's okay. It's part of growing. It's part of learning, but that's one to really impress. But you have to really be careful, because if you overdo anything, even the over niceness sometimes, you know, so it's just kind of treat it. He goes, no matter what, you're going to fuck your kids up. He just said that. He goes, no matter what, you're going to fuck your kids up. And he's being funny because he's saying, like, there's no perfect parent. So don't be hard on yourself, okay? And don't always blame yourself for a personality trait your child has, because remember, they're here for their own journey. So, but just do the best you can. Unconditional love, no judging, and lots of love. Those 3 top things right there, he says, is what you focus on first.
And never say, I'm proud of you. Say instead,
you should be
proud.
Yeah.
I bet you're proud, so they can reflect. And saying, well, I'm going to be, she says, she's proud of me. I better keep doing the same thing just because I want that, more of that. And also, we use a lot of overheard praise, which means we knew a kid was in the next room, but Rudy and I would talk about, wow, did you see how Michelle did a great job on mulching the whatever? I mean, so it's more meaningful. Anyway, next question. If parents are still alive, what can be done with regards to their narcissistic behavior? Nothing. No contact, leave them, right? I mean, we already talked about that. So let's go on.
We have, you know, you can't change somebody. You can only change yourself and how you let it affect you. So work on you, Erik says, work on you. To heal your issues. Work on you.
Okay. So. Are there cases where parents are narcissistic because they're possessed by negative entities?
That's a good question. So he's saying that not everyone, and it's very rare, but there are little bits, like, you know, little situations, like, I don't want to say little bit, rare situations, we'll just use that word, very rare situations, to where maybe an Henri earthbound, not demonic or anything like that, but, you know, that feed on that energy, and it can encourage it in a way. So not causing it. Make it worse, but not causing it so much. And they do have free will, he said. I'm sorry. He said, Erik just said people do have free will when they come here. Everyone's journey is different, but they do have free will, whether it's going to be more extreme or less extreme. Like your father, for instance, Elisa, he could have had it less. It didn't have to be as extreme as he took it. Those were some of his free will choices.
All right, we answered this already. What is the most common before life contract between narcissistic parent and their children? Did that. On the page. What % of the time is the right move to dissociate completely? Okay, so when you know it's time to dissociate?
Yeah, you know, when you feel like that you've exhausted all your avenues and you know what I mean? There's nothing, and you're still hurting. Yeah, your heart, follow your heart. There's no certain number, he says, because everybody's situation is different. So just, you know, follow your heart and you'll know. When you start thinking, this is it, I've done everything, I've exhausted everything that I could do to deal with this, then it's time to move on.
Can narcissistic personality come from dissociation due to trauma ever?
Yes.
Wow.
Like abandonment, you know, like if a child was abandoned or abused themselves, or, you know, ignored. He's showing like ignored, like being ignored, you know?
My grandparents took my dad to a boarding school when he was little and said, just stay in this hall, we'll be right back. And they didn't come back.
Oh, Jesus.
So that,
Jesus.
Is, what was it going to, what do you tell somebody when, all right, I'm done. Okay. How do you announce that to the narcissist without getting killed?
You just do it. You don't, because they're, again, he's saying futile to argue or explain your situation.
I'm separating from you.
You can. It depends again on the situation. If it's somebody who, because he says that there's some narcissists that are physically abusive. Now, mental abuse is worse. I think, me, Ginger,
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, that it would be worse than mental abuse, right? Because
Okay.
you heal, your body heals,
Yeah.
but it's a mental abuse is with the physical abuse. So Erik is saying, if there's a chance of physical abuse,
They just leave. Yeah.
you leave. Yeah.
No.
And
Let
yeah,
me
he's
jump over
saying
the
that.
address.
Right. He's saying that you don't need to say anything because there's no way to convince them or make them understand why you're
Change your
doing it.
locks.
Because yeah, and then
Change
they
your
will
phone
just,
number.
it's
Change your
just going to be,
email
yeah,
address. Yeah.
everything.
If
Yeah.
they're
Cut
dangerous,
ties.
yeah, you need to make sure
Yeah.
you check
Right. And
restraining orders, for example.
try to get support systems too around you.
Okay.
Get support systems.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
narcissistic parents an ancestral trait that needs to be healed to stop the trauma from being passed down? Or is it an individual problem each soul has to overcome?
It's both. It's both.
Yeah, I figured.
But the only way that you can really stop it, because it's going to be individualized, even with the ancestral trait, he's saying that though stopping that cycle is where it starts, is how he says it.
Yeah.
Stopping the cycle is where it starts.
Right.
So you recognize the problem and you try to stop those behaviors, the cycle of behaviors,
In
is the
yourself?
best thing you can do.
In yourself.
To
Okay, right.
yourself, be aware for yourself. You can't change it for anybody else.
No.
Or even if you see it like in your children at a young age, because you know that it's in your ancestry, right?
Yeah.
But again, remember this, if it's meant to be, you can't fight fate. That's his big words he always gives me. You
Soul
can't, if
contract
it's
is a
meant to
soul
be.
contract. Right.
Right, a soul contract. But it doesn't mean don't try, he's saying, because that's part of the growth,
Right.
it's
Right.
part of the growth.
Right. How do I know if my parental figure is a narcissist? Okay, we already talked about the traits, so that's good. How do I heal from this unhealthy relationship they've built and how they've impacted my view on men? So yeah, so now you got rid of them or they died or whatever. Now how do you heal so it doesn't
Here's
impact
what
the
he's
relationship?
saying. He says, first of all, you let go of all expectations. That you may have for your parents, because you can't change them. So first of all, you let go of all expectations. Then recognize, who you are individually, who you think you are as yourself, and start noticing the positive things about yourself. Build your self-esteem, build that independence. He says, and remember, it's not your fault. Your parents' behavior is not your fault.
Right.
That is their fault. So you don't have to live with that. You don't have to identify
Yeah.
with that
Cognitive
anymore.
behavioral therapy might help, huh?
Yes, he's saying any kind of like therapy that helps you build that confidence within yourself. Um, yeah, he's saying also, be patient again. He's like talking about being patient with yourself. It's okay. This is part of your journey. This is what you're here to do. This is what you're here to go through. What else, Eric? Oh, he's saying, and there's going to be setbacks and there's no perfection in it,
Yeah.
So just be patient and know that growing that confidence within you is going to, make a difference, make a big difference for yourself.
You release the contract and karma of these narcissistic relationship. What is the spiritual? We answered that pretty much. But one thing you can do is go to atlantascalar.com and get the self-love, trauma release, and inner child healing. It's actually very powerful and less
Yeah.
expensive than the other services. All right.
Right.
I wonder if the narcissistic parent who abused you will build karmic debt, although you both agreed to it before you were born.
Yeah, that's actually a good question too, because you got to think about how when you come here, you've made this pre-plan of what you're going to go through. But remember, we have free will. So for the free will, and you take it to an extreme, and it was kind of outside of the contract, I guess you could call it that.
Okay.
He's saying that this definitely now it can be karmic debt, but you have the choice. He wants to make people know that they're not like going to have to do something. They have a choice. But remember too, and whenever anybody goes through a life review, you still experience the opposite of what you're feeling, and that isn't for punishment, and it's not judgment. There's no judgment. It's for learning.
Right.
So
we've already covered this from a spiritual perspective. What causes narcissism? It's basically a contract, people. Okay, is it possible for a person with narcissistic personality disorder for their behavior to worsen with age? My father it was worse, then better, and then worse. I see.
Yeah, and it depends. It depends on the person's situation. It depends because sometimes people can end up getting like Alzheimer's or dementia,
And
and
then
then it goes
my mother
down.
got nice. I love dementia.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a difference, Erik says. But some can. It's individualized. Some can. Yes, they can.
See if we can fit all these in.
Okay.
Erik, make them brief if possible, but if it's necessary, don't be brief. Do narcissistic parents know that they hurt their children? Do they ever feel remorse? I mean,
Uh, he's saying yes and no. Again, that's individualized, but most of the time it's going to be a no.
yeah. Like my
They're very,
father, no remorse,
yeah,
correct,
yeah,
Jose?
no, no,
No remorse.
no.
What did you think after the beatings? Did you feel guilty at all? I mean, you beat us over finding a dishcloth in the silverware drawer that my 2-year-old sister did, and she wasn't beaten.
He's saying no, actually. He's saying no because he felt like it was necessary,
Yeah.
like in his mind.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think about it now? And I'll say this to most narcissistic parents, once they've passed, now looking from a spirit's perspective, what are their thoughts?
It was taken into extreme sometimes that it didn't need to be taken in. Apologies. They bring a lot of love from the other side, trying to help you heal. This is what Eric's showing is that anybody, not just parents, but narcissistic loved ones on the other side will bring healing energy around you to try to help you heal.
Especially if you ask for it, people.
Yeah.
All right. What has to be the experience as a child so that this child turns into what we call a narcissistic person? I think we've covered that one. Also, you were right. All right.
What?
You were right. Is there an age at which at which narcissism fades or starts to fade? That's probably related to age-related cognitive decline.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It would have to do with the mind. Sometimes it can get worse, Erik says too, with dementia. Sometimes they get but it's not narcissistic so much. It's more combative, confusion, but it just depends on the individualized situation. Yeah. Yeah. But it's, also the same too for a lot of the people who their minds change, that's pretty similar.
Okay. Do you think we're going to be able to finish them all? A lot of them let me, because I don't have enough.
Yeah, I think.
Read. All right. Can it be that turning into a narcissistic person is the only coping mechanism to cope with emotional abandonment, neglect, etc. during their childhood days? Is that the only way they can cope?
They think it is. It's not the only way to cope, but they felt it was.
Oh, yeah. Okay, are narcissists devoid of the divine spark that most human beings have? Wow. It's probably just
no, because we're all souls. We're all, from source, and they're not. No. He says no to that.
Maybe it's just a little bit cloudy, just buried a little bit.
Right. You have the divine spark because you are a soul, you're a living soul, but it doesn't mean you have to be a divine person. I mean, there are people there's people that are come here to kill, murder, do some pretty nasty things, and they are all from source too. It's just the experience that they create.
All right.
For growth.
Narcissism be a cultural thing? Well, I will say that in my father's generation, you had the child is to be seen and not heard, and spankings were very common.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I guess
Control.
Component of it, right?
Right. Yes, it can. It can be. Yes, absolutely.
Do souls reincarnate as narcissists over and over again?
Individualized. Not usually. I'm hearing not usually. They do have more than one sometimes, but not usually. You and I, Elisa, have been narcissistic once or twice in an experience. Yeah. In another incarnation for an experience. Yes.
Must be hard to be a narcissist. Dad, are you going to come back as a narcissist over and over again?
He says no. He actually shows me reversing roles with somebody. Or he's on the other end of it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Is there a way to help her change the narcissist? No. Does cognitive behavioral therapy ever help with a narcissist? Is it possible?
It is. It's
Dialectical
possible.
something
It is. And even if it's a contract, and because I know some people are probably wondering, can you break this contract? You can. You can. If it's meant, if it's written in there, right? So
they're not
never
going to agree
ever
to.
not try.
They're not
Huh?
going to. They're not going to agree to therapy because they're not wrong.
Right. You have to really get them to go. But there are ones that he says are meant to not be, there's never any of them that get 100%.
Yeah.
Like they make 100% turnaround. But there are some that will get a little bit better.
Okay. All right. Good.
Very few and far between.
I can imagine. So this one lady says, I just realized that I've been living with a narcissistic husband for 23 years. So how does somebody live with a narcissist for so long without really realizing it, Erik?
Denial. Big time. He says denial. So you're in denial. Plus, oh, that's interesting. He says, plus, if you grew up with one, that's a comfort zone for you.
Oh,
That's something you're used to, and you don't really realize it's a narcissist until you start realizing what a narcissist is.
yeah.
So that can happen.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
absolutely.
Like you married your father or something like that.
Well, right, and also, I mean, a child. Think about it. At least a child that would be beat all the time, which you've been there. Sometimes that is a comfort place for them because it's what they're used to. Like if you're yelled at or screamed at, and stuff like that's behavior that you're used to. So it's comforting to you, even though it's negative.
Okay.
Not you per se.
Cut the audio just for a second.
Okay.
My daughter just came through the door. All right. What advice would you, Erik, give to a young man or woman who may be an empath, psychic, or intuitive, who have to deal with a narcissist as a single parent, or both mother and father who are both narcissists?
So this is with anybody that goes in the, not just with narcissists, but any kind of energy out there that might be uncomfortable for you. It's all about perspective and protection. So you call on source, your guides, universe, encircle yourself with divine light. He says, see yourself in a bubble and say, only allow in what is needed for my highest good. It's that simple. And trust it. Trust it.
This is this person. It's not my energy. This is not my energy.
Right.
Say, I am whole and part of God, our creator. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's many ways to do it. There's many ways to do it, but most importantly is to know that you don't have to accept that energy. But when you're an empath, it's important to just at least visualize yourself shielded in a way, but you don't want to shield everything out. You want some things to come in.
Oh, no.
So.
All right, how do we release the trauma left behind by a narcissist? Do the self-love, trauma release, and inner child healing, people. It's it's one of our most powerful services.
Yeah, it's not your fault. Just remember that. It's not your fault, and it takes time to work on it. Just work on building that self-esteem inside of you and knowing it's not your fault.
Knowing that you need to love yourself. You're lovable.
Self-love. Self-love.
Right,
you're worthy. You're worthy. You're worthy.
This one Norwegian client of mine bought a crystal, and she got it from the mail, and she put it by the seat of the car, and it was just emanating love so much because I put a lot of love in there that she started crying. And she did, oh my God, I'm going to post this. She did an audition in Oslo for a part of Les Mis.
Oh, wow.
I hope she gets it. Anyway, last question. A quick question about adult narcissistic children. Any advice for the parents of those or loved ones?
What was the beginning of it, Elisa?
Oh, how do you deal with your adult children who are narcissists?
Oh, same way. It's the same way. It's kind of hard too, because, it's hard to just cut your child off. You love them, but you have to decide too, Erik says, and it's an individual basis, of course, but you have to decide too, is it to a point where you really, is it because yourself can't have control over your emotions? Try to look at it that way. This isn't blaming yourself, but remember, that's what you're learning. You're learning how to have more control over your emotions. And just remember, you can't change them. A lot of times it's hard because you want them to be different, but just accepting them for who they are, loving them no matter what.
Yeah, no matter what.
And
parts of them that are
again, Right. And again, he's saying, even if it's your child, it's okay to cut ties if it's too toxic. It's really okay. All right. Yeah.
I can't imagine.
It's a hard one. Yeah, that's a hard one.
Say, Eric, about this wonderful topic.
Yeah, he's saying, just know that you are, if you're raised by narcissistic people or you're around narcissistic people, you are capable of changing how you feel about yourself and think about yourself, because it is very abusive, mentally abusive, and very programming, especially if you were raised that way. You've been programmed in the brain, so you just work on reprogramming that mind. Counseling, life coaching, spiritual guidance, all these things can help you.
Ginger can help you.
Yeah.
Ginger is a life coach. She helps my son, one of my sons. My other son.
Yeah. Erica, she helps me too. Erica, she helps me too.
Of course I do. What was I going to say? It was important. I don't. Okay, what were we talking about? Life coaching.
That you can do. There's things you can do. You can change. You don't have to stay within it. You don't have to be a victim of this. You don't have to be a victim.
I was a victim from childhood until young adulthood. Poor me. I was just like, okay. And then what I did was, okay, I got to find the good part in my experience. What is the good part? And this is before I got into spiritual things. So it's amazing. It must have been channeled to me.
It was.
But anyway, so I said, and I found out that it's maybe a more nurturing person who could stand up to people, assert herself, etc. So once you do that, you can show gratitude for it. Thank you so much for the beatings. And then you can let it go. You can just release it. It's easier to release once you see them as teachable moments. And also, the person asked, can you ask your own spirit guides for assistance? And of course, you can always ask.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, you can. But just remember this, Erik says, nobody, including Source, can come in and change anything on your path. Archangels can sometimes if it's needed, but it's very rare. But no one can change your path. That's like getting on the bike and riding it for you. Okay. You have to go through it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ginger. You guys check her out in the description box below. And Erik, I love you.
Thank you.
Love Christina.
Love you.
She's in here making faces. You still love Christina?
Yeah, love you. He's going, love you.
All right, I love you. Okay, you guys hit the subscribe and like button, please. And watch the first part if you didn't already. Where's the end button?
Right.
All right.
Right.
Bye-bye. You got a message?
Bye.
See ya.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.